I'm really excited today to bring you a video about my methodology and class structure. This is the end of a quasi-series I've been doing about tutoring with Maria and my services. So I'm excited to tell you about this, so let's get started. When considering my methodology, it is first important to understand that I tend to have two different types of classes. I can either help a student with their existing course to get a better grade, or I am the teacher and I can control the curriculum. Obviously, I handle these different types of lessons in different ways, but I would like to focus here with you now on the classes that I control the curriculum, although of course some of these items cover all types of classes. Principally, I live by 4 rules or goals, and I would like to share these with you now. Number 1, I focus and start with output. At the beginning of my writing classes, my students write freely for 10 to 15 minutes. At the beginning of my Latin classes, we tend to start with a quiz. Instead of ending with tests and exercise, I start with that because I want to base my instruction and my correction on what they themselves give me. I find this to be much more effective because they wrote it, they are more vigilant and softer to correction. Also, every student is different, and those differences really reveal themselves in their actual output and production. And so we can be more focused and we can be more productive if we start with where they are rather than just giving more and more and more information that may not be going anywhere. By this, I also mean that I genuinely care about my students' interests. So I always try to get to know my students, and they get to know me, and my love of Disney, and my love of puns, and things like that. We get to know each other, and that is revealed in their production as well. So I've had students that love dance, and so they like to write about dance. And that means that what they're writing means something even more to them. And that only helps me when I go to correct them because they want it to be even better because they care about it. Also, I get some very funny sentences in Latin. Just recently, I got a door eating someone. So even if some of the things are silly, the important part is that they are engaged because they themselves made it. And when they're more engaged, they're more vigilant, and they're in a comfortable environment, and that's only going to help their learning. And that's why I, first and foremost, care about their output and their production, and we go from there. Number 2, explanation and then opportunity for them to use it. Now, when it does come to learning something new, I have a clear structure. I will explain the concept, often I'll break it down, there'll probably be a chart used, and then I'll want them to immediately use that information themselves. Again, going back to that output. And obviously there's going to be a lot of repetition because when they are faced with the challenge of getting the correct answer, that's a moment of growth. And so I want to give them as many opportunities as possible to know whether they know the information or not. And so it's a constant, basically, arrangement of I explain something, they do it. I explain it, they do it. I don't ever have a lesson where I do a majority of the talking. I always balance it out with what they're giving me. And again, it immediately goes back to they give me something and then we can shape and correct what they give me. So my actual time spent in explanation is not as long as you might immediately think because I spend most of my time in shaping and correcting, which is really just a further use of explanation. It's a further method of explanation. Number 3, varying the methods. This is all to do with me. I am a person who it's two things at the same time. I'm a very visual learner, but then I also want to read through something. I can do something for a really long time, but then I won't do it for a while. I tend to change a lot, and I think that we could all say the same about ourselves. And so that's important to bring into the classroom as well, the virtual classroom. And so I constantly vary my methods and approaches, which really does help with different learners. So if I have somebody who mostly learns through reading, then I'm going to give that person a lot of explanations that they can read through. However, even that person needs some variations. So I might ask them to look at a diagram and explain to me what the diagram is trying to say. The most important thing to me is that I take one piece of information and I approach it from different angles and different viewpoints. And also that the lesson doesn't become stagnant or the same old, same old. They should feel a liveliness, and that only helps for their own engagement, and it also helps to manage different learning styles, and it's just a very important part of my methodology is to literally use different methods, whether it be visual or auditory or reading or kinesthetic, which is quite interesting on an online video chat to try to introduce kinesthetic learning. But it has happened, and I enjoy it. I really do. It keeps the lesson lively, and it keeps everybody engaged, including myself, because like I said, we all need some variation sometimes. Before I go on to my last point, I want to talk to you a little bit about the actual lesson, the literal lesson. So here's how it happens. I communicate with the parent, and then we schedule a time, and I put that time on Google Calendar, and then we meet together on either Skype or Google Hangouts. I call the student. That's polite form for me to be able to call the student. And then we start the lesson. I always have a chat open with my students, a text chat. And if we're in Skype, of course, it's right there. And if we're using Google Hangouts, it's probably going to be in Slack. The chat is really important because it gives them the opportunity to write to me, and I have the opportunity to write to them, and we have a record of it. So let's say 2 months down the line, I want to see something that happened in one of our text chats so that I could recreate it or I can quote them. That is really important. And then I also have a virtual board. Now I've actually showed this before in an earlier video, which I will link below. And this helps me to just keep something up all the time. Reading passage or a sentence where I can draw arrows and things like that is all just a part of the experience. And then, of course, we have the video chat itself. I can talk, they can talk, and hopefully most of the time we can actually see each other. Now, of course, technology can be very fickle, and so sometimes things break down, but I have never had a lesson canceled due to technology. We just make it work. So the last thing you need to worry about is the actual technology side of this. Just worry about showing up and staying in communication, because that's the most important part. I'm an understanding person, but I need to be able to communicate with you. And after the lesson has completed, I will send my whiteboard, my slides to the student. And if I am their only teacher, then I will also send some homework. And throughout the week, I am fully available on Skype or email, and I get messages from students and I can respond right there. And it's a really nice environment. Even though we don't have a tangible classroom, we definitely have a central place to meet, a reliable method of communication. And so that is how my literal class structure works, and it's the same every week. Number 4. Number 4 is very close to my heart. And simply put, it's the fact that learning is a lifelong journey. I am under no delusions that I will be the last teacher a student has in Latin or writing or just generally. I wouldn't want that. My goal is twofold. One, I want to meet the goals of the student. So if the student wants to get a higher grade or learn something specific, we are going to meet that goal. But the second goal is that I engage and enliven and encourage them, and that they either have some appreciation for the subject or that they've just learned something about learning itself. I confess, sometimes a student is definitely not going to become a Latin translator, and that is perfectly fine. And there's still a lot to learn. They can learn about learning itself, the process, and vocabulary and grammar. And that is just as beneficial than is the material itself. And so I understand and believe that I am part of their lifelong journey of learning, and I'm very humbled and blessed to be a part of that. I love watching my students grow, and I am so excited to think about all the things that they are going to learn in life. And they need to understand that as well when they're learning this material, is that this is not the last time that they're going to think about writing, or the last time that they're going to be confronted with, well, what is this sentence? What's the grammar in this sentence? And if they don't get it now, then they may get it later. And if they do get it now, they may get it even better later on. And that's my point, is that learning is a journey. And I am just so excited to be a part of that journey for the students that I am a part of it with. So thank you for watching this video and learning about my methodology and my courses. And if you would like to watch the other videos about tutoring with Maria so you can learn even more, there will be links below, as well as information on how to book a lesson if you so desire. I look forward to talking with you more. And if you want to learn about the actual subjects I teach, learn more about them, please hit that subscribe button and that little bell so that you get notifications. All right, until next time, bye-bye.